Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this, the guy you see on the screen is my new friend, Pastor Anthony, and met him in a pastor's text that is really life to me right now. That Pastor Philip Wagner, previous senior pastor of Oasis Hollywood, founding pastor, I guess is what they call him, of Oasis Hollywood, now Pastor Julian, and he set us all up in a group text, and I, just as a white pastor during these times, was just longing for some more wisdom from any black pastors out there that could help speak into my life or give me direction during this time, just anything I can learn. And Pastor Anthony volunteered and said, hey, I would love to speak with you, and just so kind to do so. And then discovered that Pastor Anthony is in the same area as us, because the people in the text are from all over the world. And so, Pastor Anthony, tell everyone a little bit about yourself. I know you are a pastor and have amazing family. Tell them a little bit about that.
Yeah, pastor of Redeemed Life Church in Azusa, California, by way of Oasis Church with Philip Wagner and Holly Wagner, where my wife Bonnie and I served as pastors on their team, doing ministry with them for about 15 years. Before Pastor Philip took me to an ARC conference and changed my life. That is where the seed to plant a church was birthed in me, and over a series of years, Pastor Philip and Pastor Holly sent us off to go do the work of building the kingdom over here in Azusa, California, which is in the San Gabriel Valley, where we've been now pastoring for about 4 years, and doing so with our 3 beautiful kids, little Anthony, Alana, and Leilani. They're 14-year-old triplets. They are our miracle babies that God has given us after having a journey of not being able to have children and kind of weathering through those hurts and those pitfalls. And then here comes these 3 juggernauts doing their thing. And so now we're over here in Azusa trying to stay safe on these Rona streets.
Yeah.
For real.
Trying to stay safe with Rona out there.
Right?
Oh, man. Well,
there's all kinds of
things. Be safe in your house with 3 14-year-olds at the same time, man.
Hey, everyone's alive. I'm winning. Because like I'm saying, I'm winning. Ain't nobody dead. So we win.
Yeah, come on, man. Yeah, that's good, man. Especially, in these times where we I'm trying to figure out what to believe now about Rona, and we'll see what happens with the spikes and all these things. I don't know if you've ever done the test where they give you the number of your personality,
the Enneagram,
but I've done it. Yeah, the Enneagram, and I finally did it, and I got a 6 and an 8. So I'm that leader that's like, I'm not gonna wash my hands on purpose, and then I'm the 6 that's like, we're all gonna die. Like, no, I can't trust anybody. I'm buying 6 extra rolls of toilet paper. So I'm kind of schizophrenic right now in a sense. And so my wife laughs because I have both living inside my personality, which is a strange mix. So yeah, Rona, one day I'm good with her, and one day I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Everyone wash their hands. But yeah, man, hey, so good to just take a moment of your time. And I know we're having this conversation on like what's a recorded forum, but man, I thank you for just taking time with me, because I'm really looking at this not like a thing I'm trying to record and get out there. I've done a lot of that already. I'm just looking for, from just this conversation, just for me, just some growth and learning from a brother who would take some time with another brother, and where we have another connection, that we're both pastors and we're both men with families. And man, if we could find a way to learn in this moment. I was telling you earlier when we weren't recording yet, it kind of hit me recently when I was texting one of the guys who, he's a big guy in my church. He's actually my CrossFit trainer. And I hang out with him a lot, as far as we were training 3 times a week, and anytime I could hang out with him, he's one of those friends that I like to hang out with. He's just and I kind of sent him this text like, hey, be safe out there. because I'd seen everything that's happening and some of the videos, and just kind of coming to the awareness of like, wow, maybe it may not be safe for everybody like I feel safe. Um, and he kind of responded back, I ain't never been safe.
Mm.
And it just hit me, because for me, it was like something new I'm discovering. For him, racism in America, injustice, inequality were something, he was born into, and yeah, and just thinking, because our relationship was seemingly healthy, that every relationship he has is the same way, because everyone loves you like I love you,
Mm-hmm.
and it just wasn't the case. And I think, also, Pastor Anthony, I get a lot of this, but it's here's the numbers and here's the statistics, and what about, the people that feel like we've moved from there. And I think the pushback I have as a pastor for why I'm reorganizing everything I'm doing to this moment is, number one, I feel like the heart of God is here in this. And I'm not trying to please anybody. I don't think we can please everybody, but the heart of God is having me do this. But at the same time, I don't feel like I have a Black friend. And I have quite a few Black friends who don't have a story about this. And for me, that's all the statistics I need.
Wow.
That's all the numbers I need. I don't need any other numbers. I don't need what happens in this city and how many are. That's enough. That's enough for me to go, well, I've done the survey myself, and here's all my friends.
Right.
And from all different statuses, one that lives in the hood and one that doesn't. One that lives in my nice apartment complex that I live in downtown LA, loft status. People here are, write TV shows. They, are business owners, people like that have a story. So, I don't really care about the statistics anymore. I want to be a part of the solution to help. And to be honest, coming into this for the first time, the awakening like this, it is a bit overwhelming, because, I'm just getting started. And then this is just the tip of the iceberg, police, in a sense, police problems from the bad police. Cause I don't think the good police would be, I think the good police will be marching with us if they could, they want justice, hopefully just as much as I want justice. That's why they hopefully do what they do if they're good police. But policing is we could fix that and still have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so, talk to us, share with us as a Black man in America, do you have a story like that?
Mm-hmm. I have several stories like that. And I agree with you. You'd be very hard pressed to find an adult Black male that does not have a story of racial injustice. And oftentimes I found myself in this space as I'm having these conversations to realize why haven't I shared my story more? And a realization that I just came to just recently, a couple of days ago, first of all, will only speak for me. And I've shared that and said that in different talks that I've had. I in no way speak on behalf of all Black people. I can't do that. I don't care how many initials somebody has before or after their name. If they claim to be the expert on Blackness in America, I would question it. But what I can share, speak to my own experience, because all of our experiences are different and nuanced. But there's some things that are, unfortunately, we all share. And a common thread or a common thing that we see throughout our stories, which is this systematic oppression, abuse, injustice, in its many different shapes, forms, and evil. So I always, when I have these conversations, I always like to start by just recognizing the space that we're stepping into, which is not safe. It's a brave space, but it's not a safe space. And I think it's important that we just call that out for what it is, because no matter how we go about having a conversation like this, we are going to risk being misunderstood, misrepresented. People are watching it through their own filter of pain and hurt and loss and grief and rage and anger, and you fill in the blank, and they're going to see things through that lens. And that's just the way that this kind of game flows. But I can only share based on my experience out of my own filters and my own biases. So I put that out on the forefront, knowing that those things are there. But that being said, if we don't step out into this brave space and have these conversations and these stories don't get told and we don't move the ball further down the field, which isn't that the point of it anyway. It's just to keep it moving, keep it pushing. Kind of grew up with and at a very early age was exposed to racial injustice and was made painfully aware that I am Black. And in this country, that means that you are seen oftentimes as a threat or as a weapon or as having less than someone who is not Black. So I have stories from being a teenage boy. This one I just shared recently with my congregation I hadn't thought about for a while, but I remember growing up in Oceanside, California. I'm the youngest of three. And so we were all teenagers at that time. I have two older brothers walking down the street, getting pulled over by the cops and said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" We're literally walking home from school. And they were saying, "Hey, we're loitering." And that to them is an indication of gang activity, to which we began to explain, we're walking home and we're brothers. To which the cops said, "Hey, well, all we know is where two or more of you are gathered," isn't that funny? That trouble is about to break out. So if that's the case and you're walking home, we're going to ask that one of you walk on the other side of the street, because we can't have three of you walking at the same time. So I did not have the privilege of walking home with my brothers from school. And I remember getting home to my house with the police cops rolling up, not even believing that we were brothers, waiting for us to go inside the house for my mom to come out and just saying, "Hey, are these your sons?" And she's like, "Yes, they are." "Oh, well, we just saw them walking together." Explain, "Hey, just so you know, when they're walking around, there's going to be some assumptions made about them, and perhaps we should not do that." And you can imagine how a mother would feel hearing from law enforcement that her three sons are being sweated by the cops for being Black and being told that three brothers should not walk home from school together.
Wow.
From memories like that to one just recently that happened, where my beautiful baby girls and I were going to our very first father-daughter dance right here in the wonderful city of Glendora, is where I was passing through, which is a neighboring city to Azusa where we live. I was coming back from getting my gym workout on and knew that I was taking my baby girls to our first dance together and wanted to just get them a simple corsage, because I'm going to come correct. I'm going to spoil them. So if any fool named Tyrone tries to roll up on them and spit some game, you're like, my daddy taught me right. You better back up off me. Anyway, stop at this flower shop, enter the door, and it's me and one other customer that's in front of me. A white lady is helping the customer, giving this customer, this gentleman, all her time, all her smiles, all kind of love. Like, "What are you looking for?" Helping him pick the perfect bouquet for his occasion, giving him customer service like you wouldn't believe. Took about 10 minutes while I'm waiting to make sure that she came correct with him. He gets his bouquet, whatever, rolls out, looks up, sees me, and her whole demeanor changes. And she simply says, "How can I help you?" Not in the "how can I help you," but in like, "Well, are you lost?" I began to explain in my smiley demeanor, "I'm so excited. I'm taking my girls to a dance. I want to get a couple more corsages. This is going to be great." To which she says, "Well, I don't know if I'll be able to help you. Usually you have to call in for that. Like, that's just not something we make on the spot. Do you know what they want?" I was hoping you could help me out. I know one of them likes pink, one of them likes purple. Help me figure out something that a young teenage girl would like. And to which she responded, "How would I know what they would like?" It became very apparent that she was not wanting to help me. And I had a choice to make. Part of me wanted to just be enraged and tear that place apart. I realized I came in, I'm in gym clothes, I got a hoodie, I got dreadlocks, I got an earring, but none of those things are excuse to be treated like trash. But it was clear that there's some assumptions made about me, to which I said, hey, well, maybe you can help me figure something out. And she's like, you know what? I think you'll have better luck. There's a Vons right down the way. I think they'd be able to help you more than I could. And in that instance, I just, thank you very much. And I left. These are things that I experience on a regular basis. The threat of a male black body to those, how would I even articulate that? There is something very heartbreaking to be constantly seen as a threat because you live in a male black body. Maybe that's the best way to see it. So we got to have some conversations. We have to be placing ourselves in these brave spaces where we can share stories like that until everything changes. And we are now at a critical boiling point, not just in our nation, but around the globe, where I love when I'm hearing signs that read enough is enough and this has got to stop. Black lives do matter. They matter to God a great deal. The Bible has a whole lot to say about the beauty of God's creation and all of its diversity. And none of us should be satisfied until we can all say that my black brothers and sisters, my brown brothers and sisters, my white brothers and sisters, we're all being treated with the same level of love that God would want us all to be treated. Something's got to change. We got to move the ball down the field. And it's conversations like this that are that we got to be willing to just step into.
Yeah, and it's difficult to have these conversations because we are all very selfish, and we get caught up in our own life and our own pain and our own things. And I think as believers, we're gonna have to lead the way because if no one steps out and begins to say, I know it's 2020, and we have come a long ways, but we still got a long ways to go.
Amen.
And how do we solve this? How do we, because it is a sin problem, but that sin problem has led to a system problem, so systems don't have a soul. So, you got the argument of we need to work on the sin, but then you got the argument of, well, that's a cop out because sin will always be with us. So how do we as a society change? But then as believers, I guess the key is getting that sin out of our own heart, so that the systems even in the church will change.
Yeah, I think it's definitely got to start at a heart level. And I think as we approach something it truly is this demonic and this evil, you approach it in the spiritual and in the natural. I got to share with you, recently I did a peaceful protest, and there was a young lady that was sharing her heart, sharing her rage. She was a beautiful chocolate sister, looked like she could have been one of my daughters. Just so full of pain about the atrocities that had happened with George Floyd and Aubrey and all the names that we do need to say. But in that, something that she said that stuck out to me that just caught me off guard, kind of felt like a gut check. In this particular protest, I took some time to pray, and took part in leading the protest. It's a crazy story. It wasn't supposed to be that way. Leaders didn't show up. There was a leadership vacuum. I ended up stepping into it, turned it into a prayer meeting. Some people were not happy about that. It is what it is. When God calls you, you walk through the door that he opens. But as she was sharing her pain, one of the things that she said was like, and I feel like this protest got hijacked. Now we got people up here praying and telling me what to believe. And And this protest has nothing to do with the church. I don't even know why the church is here. This is a movement for Black people. So there's a lot that came off in that statement. The one thing that stuck out for me is she had to be in her like early 20s. And I took a pause and a beat in my spirit. And I remember thinking to myself, what in the world? When did the church become so complacent that we have a generation coming up that thinks that when it comes to an issue like this of social justice, that it's no place for the church? Like the leader of the civil rights movement was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. The church has always been on the front lines. When it came to the abolitionist movement, church on the front lines. Women's suffrage, church on the front lines. The church has always been the community, the body that has championed issues of justice. But somewhere along the way, we got to creating great church services, which need to happen. Wonderful opportunities to worship, feeding the homeless, the things that were way more, I think, politically correct and less threatening to the mainstream. And they began to push us over into our safe church corners. And when it came to something this volatile, this important, this young lady felt right in saying, church, you have no business being here. In fact, the fact that you're here is messing up the movement. So I took it upon myself in that moment to say like, oh, never again. Never again will I let my voice be silent. One, as a Black man, but two, as a pastor in God's house. Like, I think for me, I can only speak for myself. I love the Bride of Christ. I think the church is doing great things that have great eternal value. We don't get it right all the time. And on this one, we've missed some very important things. That being said, I know for me, I think somewhere, if I'm being real with myself, I believed when it came to an issue of racism like this, if I reach the lost, evangelize to God's people, get into the real long, like going for the long game act of discipleship, deep discipleship, help people change at a heart level, then that would snuff out injustices like racism, which makes sense to me. What I realized in this season is it doesn't have to be an either or. Why can't it be a both and? Why can't I be about letting the Holy Spirit do heart transformation, but also fighting legislation? Why can't I be about bringing people up into who they are, getting their identity in Christ, but also be about educating them on the horrors of racism? We got to be at both playing fields in order to want to get to the deep-rooted heart issues, but also the issues of systemic racism that are tearing down brothers. They're losing their lives on the street. We're feeling like our lives are being threatened just to go out and get some Skittles and some iced tea. We're being shot down, vigilante justice, because people are seeing us and our mere presence running on a running path as a threat to their freedom. That goes way deep and has to be uprooted.
Wow. So good. And I like how you put that, because I think, again, it doesn't have to be either or. It has to be both, because we can't just change the social system and not bring change to those leaders who are making, because there will always be an agenda, and that agenda will distort it again. And will, I really think we need some believers in those realms, even Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he did have to, in a sense, that kind of took over his call, is that he, not leave his church, but he had to refocus his efforts into, being an activist for the Lord, and bringing so much change to the place where they were so threatened he took his life, and he became a martyr, in this call. And I think that's the bigger problem at hand, is that we've kind of left, if I could speak from a white person's perspective, what limited perspective that is, but just looking at it now, it looks as though we've left politicians up to politicians, and legislation up to legislators. And we've just only done the voting. And if anything, we're trying to let's just make sure we vote. Well, I think voting is one thing, but you don't have you have power when you vote, but it's group power. It's, where if you're the mayor, it's a
Mhm.
different level of power and authority where, man, how good would it be if we actually did get some future mayors that had the fruit of the Spirit in their life?
Come on.
And when they made decisions, it was from that perspective of, we're always going to be sinners saved by grace. We're always going to have to be beating down sin in our own life with the cross every day. His mercies are new every day. But at least that would be the focus
Yeah.
of those future politicians, because now our politicians, I mean, all of them, I can't say all, because I don't know them,
Mhm.
but you just see the fruit in their life of their belief system seems to be secondary to their power, and it seems to be an afterthought to get more votes or to get a certain vote, where I'd love to see someone get in there that their first thing was kingdom and secondary was leading. And that's how we try to lead as pastors. Can you imagine if it was the other way around for us as well as pastors, that, we're going to be a pastor first, and then, because we're a pastor, we'll tell you we're a Christian. I think that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And we would have churches just like we have politics,
Yeah.
because
I'm with you. One of the common conversations I'm hearing these days is, especially when it comes to the priesthood of believers, God's people, that we get the sense that some of us feel more Republican than we do Christian, or more Democrat than we do Christian, and where we get our value, or who we serve, who is Lord of our lives,
wow,
should be the Lord of the Bible, and not a set of beliefs that are boxed into a category.
wow,
I really believe that in this new state that we're at as the people of God, we are going to all need to rise up and step into those brave spaces, those different spaces, and bring the love of God into them with us. I think God is doing a new thing. There is no going back, and the role of the church has got to change. The role of the church has got to look different, because clearly where we've been and what we've been doing has lended to the space that we're in right now. So I know for us at Redeemed Life Church, we are a place of worship, but we are also a place of activation. Call us an activist church then. If by activists you mean that we're no longer going to stand for injustice, and that when we see a leadership void on which the church can step into and bring the voice of God that leads to actual change, then I guess we're now into the game of activism, because that's what we're going to do. We are a people that are about our Father's business. And our Father has a great deal to say about loving the poor, bringing those into greater spaces where they can not only shine for who God has created them to be, but they can also bring others up right along with them. And that has to be done more than just on a Sunday morning, afternoon, night, whatever. We got to do that 7 days a week. So the church has to we got to get activated.
Give space to it. Yeah. I've discovered that as you give space to it, like you said, it will take courage, because I think, there's no time where I've gained and lost as many followers all at the same time as now.
You and me both. You and me both.
Yeah, I think it started with when Trump made the statement of reopening churches, and I purposely picked a version from CNN and put that on my Instagram, because I know if you like CNN, you may not like Trump, and if you like Trump, you may not like CNN. So I thought, well, I'll win both this way, but I'm not putting Trump up for Trump. I'm just putting it up because of the church. And that day I lost 40, 50 followers, gained 30, and then when I did the march with our church, I lost 40, 50 followers, gained 40, 50 followers. And I think a common thread that I seen in the second one, now the first one was a quiet, people leaving quietly. The second one where I went to the march, it was loud for what I was doing. A lot of the criticism was, I can't believe you bowed to this. I only bow to King Jesus. And there was a moment where we took a knee. The guy who was leading, he's from our church. You actually probably know him. He used to be from Oasis. His name's Tyrone.
I may, if I see his
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. He's a big guy, big buff guy. And if you know Wes, Pastor Wes.
Yeah, I know Pastor
Wes Dunn. He knew Tyrone. He was with me at the march. But anyways, he had us kneel, and it was all to honor what happened with George Floyd, to experience what it felt like to kneel for 8-9 minutes. And then you would realize, oh, wow, to have someone cut off your oxygen for 8-9 minutes. It was just it was something you do at a protest. You do
a common practice,
symbolism, stuff like that. And there is no bowing to anyone. In fact, and so I just responded back to those people, I only bow to King Jesus, but King Jesus led me, it's weird wording, but Jesus led me out there to stoop down. Jesus stooped down. P.D. Jakes preaches a whole sermon about stooping down to the woman that was caught in the act of adultery. And while religion was going to stone her, he stooped down to where she was at to pick her up. And I felt like that day, as a white person with the privilege that I have in America, of when I get pulled over, I'm not nervous about the cop. In fact, I might argue with the cop about my ticket, where my brothers can't do that. That day I was stooping down to say, I hear you. I feel you. I don't know what you're feeling to the degree that you're feeling it, but I could see that it's painful, and I had that voice back to those people. And, and I used the hashtag Black Lives Matter here. We were chanting that. That was something that, a lot of my people have helped me see, hey, the all lives matter, the blue lives matter. Well, hey, if a house is on fire, you go for that house. If you're in the emergency room and someone comes in having a heart attack, you don't deal with the headache, you deal with the heart attack. Right. And so that's all we're saying. The Black Lives Matter.
Amen.
But what I've come to realize is, I think the divide that people are dealing with is, there's a political organization as well entitled Black Lives Matter. And it's really that their hashtag, Black Lives Matter movement. And so help us, Pastor Anthony. Can I stand for the message and maybe not be standing for the movement that's a political movement? Just like I wouldn't say, oh, you got to become Republican to believe this, or you got to become Democrat. Do I have to become a Black Lives Matter card carrying person? My Instagram is, click on the link in my bio, find out where all the protests are, because there are some things that Black Lives Matter movement stand for that I may not either all the way understand, or I may not believe is the right way. Just as I probably wouldn't believe for any political system.
Right.
Do you think, as a Black man, it's okay for me to say, hey, I'm for the message? To me, the message that Black Lives Matter, that message, just like I would say to you, are you fearless? And if you were to say yes, it wouldn't mean you go to my church, but it would mean, hey, I'm fearless. I get behind that phrasing. Is it okay to say that? Is it bad to say that? It's something I've been saying to people that couldn't wrap their brain around. How could you stand for a movement that is for these, they'll lift off the things the movement's for that they don't believe in. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think anything's going to be all the way what you believe in. But help us understand that divide. That's a hard thing for people to wrap their brain around, especially I think for some of maybe not Black people, but maybe for some white people that are uber Republican or whatever it is. Help them know, can they say, hey, I get it, Black Lives Matter, and not become a card-carrying member of the movement?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. And isn't it funny how complicated and layered these things get real quick? I would say, well, I'll speak from my perspective.
And I only say that because I think it matters to people to say
it does.
that. It
I
matters
don't,
to my black brothers and sisters that I say Black Lives Matter.
yeah,
And that's it.
yeah.
Period.
And I could tell you for myself, I say Black Lives Matter. I am not a card-carrying member of the Black Lives Matter movement. Even in the protest I went to was not an official Black Lives Matter march. What I've noticed for myself, again, speaking for this black guy right here, I shared this with my congregation on Sunday. That phrase, Black Lives Matter, has, in my opinion, again, just speaking for me, evolved even to something greater than the movement. For me, Black Lives Matter has also become a lament. It's me saying, as a black man, my life matters. Now, I understand that it is a connection to a movement, but it's become greater than the movement itself. And so for someone to say to me as a black man, hey, Black Lives Matter, I'm not making the assumption, white, black, or otherwise, that means that you are all for everything that the Black Lives Matter movement is about. I'm not even making the assumption that you know everything that the Black Lives Matter movement is about. I think you can hold two things in conflict or two things in tension in the same hand and still figure out how to move it forward. That's just like me saying, if I say I love America, but I don't love everything about America, well then, can you really say you love America? I can tell you one thing. My father is in the Marine Corps. He fought in several wars, still alive today, a proud American, and I'm a proud son of a Marine. And when I see that flag and when I hear that national anthem, a sense of patriotic pride rises up in me every single time. But I also know that my people have been raped, pillaged, and enslaved to build this America that I live in, that I love so much. I can hold both of those ideologies in the same hand and still say, I love America, yet there's some things about America that should be squashed out of existence. I can do that. It's with that same understanding that I think we can look at the movement of Black Lives Matter, or the phrase of Black Lives Matter, and identify that if I'm white and I say Black Lives Matter, I want to affirm with my black brothers and sisters in the black community that I see you, that you matter, and that I stand with you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I am directly in favor of the move of everything, every nuance about the movement. That's my perspective. That's my understanding. Somebody may feel very strongly different about it, and fair enough. But from where I sit, I think you're able to do that. And I think it's worthy of having more discussions like this so that people can express, how do we support the black community? How do we stand with them? How do we express the sentiment that Black lives do matter? I love the picture that you painted of, yeah, if one house is on fire and one isn't, you go to the house that's on fire and put that house out first, because that's the one that's in the greater need of your help. I understand the desire of those that aren't black to want to support what's happening in our globe today and stand with the black community. And let's just be real, the mantra, the anthem that's going on in our world right now that says we support we support our black community and stand with them, is to utter the phrase Black Lives Matter. I don't think that when you stand for that or you share that means that you are anti-cop. I don't think that all these other things that are associated with it, I think those are politics, but it's worthwhile having the conversation.
And I don't know if what I just asked, I don't know if you have even thought about that. Maybe you hadn't thought about that. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of people, I think that's what they're getting caught up in. Absolutely. Because who on God's green earth would not believe that Black Lives Matter? You got to be an idiot. We got to just push you off a cliff. Like you have. And I think what they're getting caught up in is, I don't want to submit to this, to basically saying I'm a libertarian, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican. They feel like when they say that, the movement has kind of taken this phrase that we all should say. It's actually very smart, to be honest, with the movement, is that this phrase is important for us to say, but it also represents a movement. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to take some conversation about this for some white people to say, look, how do I say this? I'm not for I'm not a card carrying member of the movement, which is okay. I don't have to be, but I am a card carrying member of heaven. And according to heaven, Black lives matter, and they matter now, and we got to help now, and we can't wait, and we got to keep going, and we got to keep, and to our brothers and sisters that I keep hearing them say, I'm tired. You know what that's saying to me is, I need somebody to carry my burden with me. And how can you carry my burden if you don't know it?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to take a lot of research, and again, you know, people have given me a lot of books to read, and I'm starting to read those and watch certain movies. But I was watching this black preacher, and he was encouraging for racial reconciliation. He was saying, just don't forget the 66 books we were given. And that even though we have sociology, and he's like, I have my sociology major. God, if we just had this book and each other, could we solve this problem in our lives? And he said, I think we should be able to answer yes. And so I think the millennials, we're getting on this kick of, your Bible is over here, these books are over here, but maybe we need to get back to our Bible first and then read those books on sociology and the study of man and make sure it lines up with what God's saying, you know?
Absolutely. And if it doesn't, be able to call that out.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm all about, like, I love that, you know, I was turning on the TV the other day with my wife, and she's like, look, there's this whole section on, like, you know, basically being black. Every black movie, every civil rights black movie documentary ever made is right there, splashed on the front page. I'm like, man, does this mean if I haven't seen all these movies that I'm not black enough? Like, it's just, there's so much information out there. And I'll be the first one to say, yes, let's move forward. Let's educate ourselves. Let's get woke, so to speak. But all that to say, I also don't want to overburden it in the sense that, this is the marathon. It's not the sprint. I'm not going to go up to my white friend and say, hey, if you want to know what it's like to be black, or if you want to have a better understanding of my pain, here you go.
Oh, thank you.
Like,
man.
I need you to go and overnight be an expert on blackness when I can't even.
And if you're not, you don't care. If you're not,
and if you're not, you don't care. Your silence is the new racism. I want to be careful. I hear the heart behind it, and I think it absolutely comes from a genuine place. This sense that, hey, please stand for us. Please say something. But there is more than one way to do a peaceful protest. There's more than one way to move the ball down the field. And I think the primary manual, the primary roadmap that we all have in common that's going to lead us to a place of freedom for all God's people is the Bible. Yes, that's the book for me. And only the church can champion God's word in the way that the church can. We cannot forsake the best for something that's just good. Like, and again, it's one of those things, again, it's not an either or, but let's just be real. One is significantly more relevant than the other. The Bible is always going to be the first and the last thing that we should turn to when understanding God's will for his people.
Yeah. Wow, man. Wow. And I appreciate you saying that too, because I think the other day someone put up a tweet and I just felt overwhelmed because it was like, I'm just getting started here and I'm tired with the people and I've only been in it for 2 weeks and because it's a lot all at once, you know? And someone said, you know, hey, keep going because we got a lot more to do. And they listed like 100 things to do. And I think, you know, not that, hey, we got to do this for white people or whoever's coming along, but I think that black person that says, hey, let's celebrate what's happened so far. And even though we're not there yet, I think at least I've learned that as a pastor, if I don't celebrate victories along the way, I lose people because they can't sign up for, they're not as much of a warrior as I am. I could keep going. Next thing. But I think to those guys out there that you just are amazing at this. You know, one of my black friends, he put up a whole post of just thanking anybody that's not black for the stance that they made in this last 2 weeks. And I can't tell you how much that made me want to do more. I can't tell you compared to the other tweet that said, make sure you don't forget about these 100 other things. I felt overwhelmed. And the
Right.
other guy that said, thank you, I'm like, come on, baby, we're doing something. Something's changing. And that gives momentum. And
Yeah.
so I love that. I love that you said, hey, the pressure's off. We don't, at least you don't
Mhm.
expect me to become an expert overnight, which I'm not going. You know, we can't get a degree
Mhm.
in what took you a life to learn in 2 weeks. And if you say you have, you're a liar. There's no way you have a degree
There's
from
no
4
way.
movies. You can't
No.
have a degree in blackness from 4 movies. And I feel like a lot of my black friends are still discovering some of the things that maybe even other black friends have got, you know, they're learning too.
Yeah.
So as a white man, I'm like, man, I got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
So,
And which is why I keep going back to that thought that, man, this is a brave space that we're in, because nobody's going to travel this road and not get bruised. Nobody's going to travel this road and go without injury. Black,
wow,
white, brown, otherwise.
we got to be brave.
We got to be brave. I've used this
Yeah.
analogy, and I used it with my church this Sunday. Everybody wants to be the bridge, and that's wonderful. We should want to be the bridge. But the one thing we got to remember about a bridge is you're getting walked over on both sides. And so no
Wow.
matter who you are, if you want to be the bridge, you better pray to God for a strong foundation, because as a black man, I'll tell you, in this last 2 weeks, some of the most hurtful things that have been said to me have come from black people.
Wow.
Because I posted a picture of myself with the Azusa PD, who are my friends, who I've done ministry with for the last 4 years planting. And as they were on the front lines getting acid and feces thrown at them, I wanted them to know that there was a black man in Azusa that said, I love you. I am for you. I know that you are good. I know that these 4 knuckleheads don't represent every cop force. And I posted that picture on Facebook. You wouldn't believe how they lit a brother up. You are insensitive. It's not about that. You're taken away from the main message. That's just like saying all lives matter. That's not what the focus is. But I had to decide for myself, what is the Spirit of God telling me? Wow. And I was about to shut those people down because I understood the anger. I understood the rage. I understood the pain.
Yeah.
But what I came back to at the end of the day, which I'm always going to come back to, when I go meet my Savior in heaven, when I stare him face to face, do I think he's going to be like, Anthony, how dare you encourage a police officer in the middle of a racial pandemic? You are so insensitive. I didn't hear him say that when he hung on the cross and they put a crown of thorns on his head and they flogged him and stabbed him and spit at him. And he still looked down in the middle of the hate and said, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. I didn't see him take that stance when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and his crew rolled up and said, hey, you're not taking my Jesus. Let me slice off your ear. And he said, no, that's not how we do. We don't roll with that violence. Let me go ahead and let you hear again. Let's go. He didn't say, let's wait until this whole incident tames down, then post your picture with the cops. He said to me in that moment, I need you to love right now when it's not fun, when it's inconvenient, when they're going to spit at you, when they're going to hurl names at you, when they're going to persecute you. Did I say bless those who persecute you? Did I say be patient in affliction? I believe I said all these things. It's time to go. Let's do this. And I know that I know in my spirit, it is what God asked me to do. And it did not take away from the movement. What it did was fight hate with love.
Yeah.
It's the only way that I saw Jesus do it. And I'm going to be misunderstood. I am misunderstood. I'm sure the fact that I'm having this conversation with you right now, somebody's taking their hat off and throwing it to the ground and saying, hey, this brother right here, what about this? He ain't woke enough. He don't know this. He don't know that.
Yeah.
I spent way too much of my life trying to please man. I'm just about pleasing.
Yeah. Come on. And that's it as a pastor, right? I mean, if the pastors out there watching, like white, black, Hispanic, Asian, like no matter where you're at, and try to stand in this, just like you said, we're going to get walked on from both sides. You're going to have people join and leave based on staying true to his word. But if you can please him, I had almost an emotional breakdown when this first happened, because I just didn't know, I'm a white guy from the country. There was literally one black guy in my entire high school. One guy. He was my friend, but that was just one. It was all Hispanics and white people. And it was like half and half. And then God calls me to downtown LA in one of the most diverse cities in the world to be a pastor. with diverse people, and all my people are fighters. So you know what that means? They are all activists. White, black, Hispanic, they all have an opinion. And I'm not even worried about the rest of the world. I'm worried about my own church. You know, saying, Pastor, we can't stand with you. And I'm like, you know me, and so I had a breakdown, and then my wife just says, honey, you don't need to please man. You need to please God.
Amen.
So you need to ask him what he wants you to do.
Amen.
And when I began to ask him, it was so clear. It was so clear, Pastor Anthony. And it didn't matter. At that moment, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if this person likes me, that person likes me, that person stays at my church, this many followers I have. I mean, on the cross, Jesus had 3 followers left on his Instagram, his mom, and one of them was his mom. And so, man, I love your perspective. I love it's so refreshing to hear, even that you posted a picture with the police that you're serving in your city, and who many of them are probably black, that are having that. I've seen many pictures of black police getting assaulted by a white protester. I'm like, wow, that's an oxymoron right there. So anyways, bro, thank you, man. I'd love to have more conversations, even off recording, just so we could even be more raw. And we're as raw as we get on here, but I love it, man. I want to, as soon as we can, I want to do lunch or coffee, or meet your teenagers, meet your wife. And we could both have our long hair and maybe get kicked out together, because they usually think I'm some kind of biker intrigue. They're like, there's no way you're a pastor. I'm like, well, I look like the stereotypical Jesus, maybe not the real Jesus, but the paintings. But yeah, man, love it. We might get kicked out of some places together. We'll just have a good old time. But love you, man. Glad to see what you're doing out there. Glad you got that march, and I'm glad you took over. That's cool.
Man, I'll tell you, it was definitely it was a wild experience, but I knew that God had me there, man. And I just want to applaud you for stepping out and even reaching out and saying, hey, man, like, I need to know more. I want to do more. Can somebody help a white brother out? And like, I heard your heart in that, and I was like, absolutely. And I kind of made a decision for myself that, like, I'm just going to step through whatever door God opens. I was like, I'm not the dude. I'm not as well versed. I don't know all the statistics. But one thing I do qualify, I'm black, so I can have that conversation. You're
a pastor, man.
And I'm a pastor. I'm a man of God, and he what he doesn't equip in the past, he equips in the present. And so I love that I get to have this moment with you, these conversations, and I'm all about it as we move forward, bro.
Yeah, bro. Great, man. Thank you. Let me pray for your church, man. I want to pray for your church on here before we get off. And did you say it was called Restoration Life?
Redeemed Life.
Redeemed Life. I'm speaking at Restoration Life.
Same sentiment.
Redeemed Life. Lord, I thank you for Redeemed Life. I thank you for Pastor Anthony. I thank you for what they're doing in Azusa, California, God. And Lord, what a great place for a move of God. What a great place for God to raise up a new voice, Lord, a modern day Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., God, Lord, a modern day both wings of the plane, God, activating our faith and walking in that faith, God. And I thank you for Pastor Anthony, his whole family, God. I pray, God, as he faces walking on from both sides of the bridge, God, that in the middle of that bridge they would meet you. And Lord, no matter who walks across, God, they would find partnership and wholeness, God. And Lord, just as even Pastor Anthony has given me some life today, God, and some encouragement today. And I pray, Lord, every race that he is in contact with, especially the Black people in that area, would rally around his voice as the shepherd. And Lord, they would lead something new, something refreshing. And we thank you for him. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.